microdosing itself, for me getting over it, I think I did that on my own, like, entirely throughout the year. And then microdosing just allowed me to, yeah, I guess, like, do some extra processing that maybe on some things I wasn't quite, like, aware that I hadn't processed, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's just that a little bit of assistance in the
Yeah.
healing journey.
Today's guest is Kacia Julius, a content creator documenting her recovery after a car accident left her paralyzed. Kacia has added psychedelics to her recovery story as she shares her brave journey of hard work, positivity, and microdosing. Welcome to the Human Journeys podcast by States of Mind. Real people, real stories, life-changing conversations of personal growth and healing. Okay, we're here with Kacia Julius. Kacia, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome to the Human Journeys podcast. I think as far as human journeys go, you have a real interesting one. I think you're the perfect candidate. When I saw your story online, I said, there's a human journey going on over there." Yeah. Why don't you give a brief introduction to your story, however you feel like?
Yeah, sure. So, um, basically, I got into a car accident that led to a spinal cord injury, and this was in November of 2024, so about a little over a year and a half ago. And it led to me becoming paralyzed from, like, the chest level down. And so basically I just knew right away that I wanted to share the journey, so I was just started recording and asked for help recording. And I didn't really know what was going to come of it. I figured, and I just compiled a lot of footage before I started posting. And then I was just focusing on, like, the healing aspect. Like, what is my life now becoming, being in this new body. And so it's been a long journey, but basically I'm here now because I discovered through another podcast the effects of microdosing on a paralyzed body. Um I That was all very undershared or under, I guess, talked about in the community and normalized pretty fast that psychedelics or mushrooms, they just increase spasticity in the body. And spasticity is basically, it's described as like uncontrollable muscular movements in a paralyzed body. So, yes, for those who don't know, spasticity is pretty common once you become paralyzed. Like, it can be initiated from just like going from sitting to laying down. Your legs will just kick straight out often. You'll have different, it'll show up differently for everybody. Um, so I heard on a podcast, on the Live to Walk Again podcast, and it was episode 179. I think everyone should check it out because it's really informative on the effects on a paralyzed body. Um, and the reason why I want them to check it out is because there's a lot of safety that needs to be considered with it, because
Mhm.
it can be dangerous to, experiment with mushrooms.
Mhm.
And the reason why is because we, can't regulate our body temperature, and so when you take mushrooms, you can become hypothermic and overheat. And so basically, yeah, I'm just sharing my journey, making that discovery and being very open about what it is like, what I can do, because there's some benefits. So it
Yeah.
helps turn on my muscle. I can stand up with some assistance, because if you take a certain amount, certain potency, it'll turn my muscles will use their full strength
Mhm.
in their legs, at least temporarily, and that's how it shows up in spasticity. So then I
Right.
use that to help with training to hopefully lead towards recovery, or at least document what it does. I'm not gonna say it's promising anything
Yeah.
miraculous, but I am just a human, like you said, like, I'm just a regular person sharing, the entire process and what I do with it until I get another, I don't know, I guess, intuitive moment to try something else.
There's so much there. I guess we'll yeah, just take like a brief moment to say that, and I'm glad you mentioned that podcast, and we'll link to it. Because it seems like your journey is definitely like a human one, and you say it on your Instagram page that you're this like a self experiment. You're just
Yeah.
documenting your journey. So I guess just to be responsible, we'll say that like this is just your experience. Like you're not a doctor. Like
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
and we'll just like take a moment there because states of mind and our work is like very like expert backed, and we like to back things up with science, but this is the Human Journeys podcast. This is like these are human stories. So yeah, I guess like disclaimer, this is Kacia's
Mhm.
story, and anyone who's listening, should check things out for themselves. And I guess we may take a second also here to say like the research around how this could be working, how psilocybin could be working for situations like yours is still pretty like new. And,
Mhm.
so, you know, double disclaimer, it hasn't been proven in trials and
Mhm.
all of that. It's like, and there is some research on how it could be working on inflammation and neuroplasticity and all those things, but it is still quite early level research. So got that out of
Mhm.
the way. These are not formal medical recommendations for anyone. This is Keisha's story.
Mhm.
This is Keisha's story.
Perfect,
And
perfect.
yeah,
Now I can
yeah.
just say whatever I want
Yeah,
now.
exactly, you just go crazy. Um, so, yeah, I guess maybe let's go in, like, chronologically. So, you had your I don't know if you used the word accident, like, I don't know,
Yeah,
what's the
I guess I just describe it as an accident, a oopsie, an
yeah,
oopsie daisy. Yeah, and that was, I had my accident, and then I so I do have prior experience, microdosing and taking mushrooms beforehand. So I did
that was
have
that was
an
my next
understanding of
question.
what that was like.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's important to know. I knew what it was like to take higher doses and to microdose. And so yeah, I felt very comfortable with it. I think there are some people that have spinal cord injuries that had never tried it before. And that I couldn't imagine like the first time trying it with spinal cord injury just because of the, physical bodily effects. But yeah, so I had my accident in November. A few months out, it was probably about 3 months, I started microdosing, or at least I tried my first dose. 3 months fresh from the accident, I still had, like, a back brace on, um and things were still so sensitive, so fresh. The way it showed up was I was still having, like, I had lots of tingles in my body, lots of pain, and, was still, trying to learn how to even move my body, like scoot from side to side and lift it up. So still getting a lot of assistance everywhere. And then we heard that podcast, me and my partner, and I was like, okay, let me give it a shot. And I tried it safely at home with, my partner around and family around. And we kind of like took it, and then you don't really think about it, and it's pretty immediate once it hits. So once it hits about, it could be anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. I don't know, it could be earlier, I don't know, it depends on how you metabolize it. Um, and then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, my legs were just like, "Okay, we're gonna kick out now, we're going now." And so and it's in, because 'cause I'm paralyzed from here down, it also activates the stomach muscles. So that is what sends me backwards and could send somebody backwards. And, so yeah, I was just kind of flopping around in bed and being like, "Well, this is crazy. There's something like alive, like woke everything up in my body." And We started moving around with some or messing around with some movements, like, I was twisting and turning in bed, just like, as best as I could, trying to see with my legs kind of, like, doing this crazy kicking out motion just to see what would happen, and I remember thinking I was tripping, right? I was like, "Okay, I think I saw my leg kick when I wanted it to."
Mm.
And
Sorry,
then I
sorry to
told
jump.
myself
Yeah, sorry to jump in for a second. Were these kind of spasticity moments common before you had microdose, or was this completely new at that point for you? Or
in the way that it shows up, it was new.
mm,
Um, so spasticity usually like, for me, it looked like before dosing, it just looked like I would, um, kick out, like, extensure, I think is what it's called. And so I would just kick out straight and just do completely flexed pointed toes when I went into laying down. And then, if I was in sitting, I would grab my leg and my leg would start jumping every now and then, like it wasn't all the time. And so it's just like tone. There's another term, tone and spasticity. It just looks like I have high tone. Um, Spasticity is, I think, those more jolty movements, and so that's how it showed up. It was all of a sudden like my knee would come up like this and then kick out, up, kick out based on how it was moving my body. And so
and you
and
felt
that
it,
shows up differently,
yeah,
but yeah.
and you felt moments of control, maybe? Uh,
I felt yeah, I remember thinking like, "Oh, I'm crazy. This didn't happen," and telling myself like I didn't even tell anybody that I felt that way, and so I just held on to that um I think with more time, just having like I had to take a bit of a break, I think just adapting to the new life. I didn't take microdosing with a serious regiment. So I then revisited it after I got more comfortable. So about a few months ago, I'd say I got more comfortable um with I've already adapted to this life. I've gained independence and been able to relearn how to do things on my own. And then I decided to take up microdosing more strictly. And then I think that that's when I was like, this is amazing. I've gone through all the different kinds of therapies to like hook my muscles up to stimulation pads and paying like $200 an hour, like it's it's crazy and I just felt so I was getting burnt out from that. And then I realized I was like, "Oh, I can just take a microdose and it'll send those signals back down." So then I was like, "What am I doing? Like I should revisit this and try to and again, it's a story of self-experimentation. So I was also frustrated with the fact how little was out there. So I decided to just put it all out there. And yeah, so far so good. I think that there's still some concerns with the fact that it's not quite accepted, but I am just still going to just keep going because I feel like that's more important is just to keep sharing as much as I can.
mm,
And I know it's entirely anecdotal, but, I always felt comfort in hearing at least an individual story, and, we go on Reddit for a reason, right? We go on these, things to hear what other people experience.
yeah,
So so yeah,
yeah,
that's my case.
yeah. Uh, yeah, you're the documenting of your story is, I mean, it's not only like your posts are not only about microdose, right? It's just you're documenting your
Mm-mm.
story in general.
Yeah.
Um, but are you becoming the microdosing pi poster child for the
I
paralyzed
guess
community?
so,
I mean,
I think so, and, like That's definitely, credit to the people that shared it with me. Dr. David McMillan and Devin Colbert, I think, are the ones that they're on that podcast that did it themselves. And well, Dr. David McMillan is a neuroscientist, and Devin is a paraplegic, and so yeah, credit to them. But I have sort of become like the one that people are reaching out to about, okay, what do I do? What are the protocols? What should I do for the, kind of
Mm,
for advice? And so that's when I am just having to share that I am just a person with a very
mm,
specific spinal cord injury. And I have my recommendations from what I've experience personally, and I always just say, like, the smaller the better, because it'll say in this podcast too, but if you know somebody with a spinal cord injury or you have one, we both found, like, I just re-listened to it because we both found out that at point 0.5, which is 500 milligrams, point 0.5 grams, is when that temperature regulation we experience the temperature regulation, issues kick in.
mhm,
So, uh, that's when you will become really hot, and hypothermic, and so just imagine, like I've received a lot of product and looked at how they dose it out, and often it's like point 0.1, they'll be in those typically it's point 0.1 is microdose, but the, like, median amount is, like, around point 0.5 I've seen. And so,
that's a big
just
one.
being careful, yeah, I'm like, just be careful with just point
Mm,
0.5, because I realized this whole time I was taking, like, less than point 0.1, and I was still seeing my muscles kind of activate and the spasticity sort of turn on. And
mm,
so I the
yeah.
topic was that when does it become, remove the
Generally
psychoactive
Yeah, generally a point
aspects and
0.5 is the upper it's almost not even a microdose anymore, like, point 0.1 to
yeah, it's, like,
point
definitely
0.1 to point 0.3, point to 0.25. Like, when you get to half a gram, you're starting to flirt with, you're out of microdose, you're starting to get out of microdosing territory. Um, so yeah, you would start to feel maybe some other effects.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's interesting how I mean, if you were at such a small dose at point 0.1 or under point 0.1 and you would still have I mean, did you feel that your body was more sensitive to things after the incidents as compared to before? Um,
Mhm.
that there's
Like, to the just dosing in general?
I guess.
Or,
Yeah.
um yeah, it's, something that I'm still so new at experiencing, but with, talking with many people, and also, like, I, did an interview with Jessica Haber, shout out Jessica, she's been paralyzed for 30 years, and she microdosed for 6 months before and then she was able to get some movement back. So,
Mm,
she got on video of her being able to kind of, like, clench and kick out her leg slightly, and,
hmm,
but that's something that I think that, she again too is pioneering her own, like, journey of self-experimentation, and so we can't really, like, define, okay, what it was that
mm,
did this. I just stayed consistent, so I feel like consistency was the big thing that I took from it, and so she described it as energy returning back to her legs first. So that and that sense of awareness of your legs, because if when you're paralyzed, you sort of lose awareness, in space, and so I feel that building, if I were to describe early on what this like, I'm still within, like, the first couple months of the microdosing journey, so I feel energy is returning to my legs, I feel slight more sensitivity, like even pressure. Like I brushed my leg the other day and it wasn't like that hard. I was just kind of doing this and I felt like the tingles where my hands were. So, um it's definitely a journey. I am not making claims. I am just saying like again, it's just experimenting and seeing what happens. And often I have heard too, it's while the dose is in your system.
Mm-hmm.
So, if it's off, I don't think you have the same amount of like uh core stability. Like I think all of that enhances while you're on the dose, but that's just my take on it
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Mm-hmm. Does it?
So
I think
yeah.
I've seen so you'll take it sometimes while you're doing your therapy,
Mhm.
your physical therapy. So you'll microdose uh, in advance of you doing your PE, or
Yeah.
you you find that that's giving you is like it's improving, potentially improving your physical therapy.
Yes, I think so um because of especially with getting like assistance with getting certain movements in.
Mhm,
Um I think it just again it enhances that ability for you to kind of rewire your brain into focused movements or
mhm,
repetitive movements. And so just
mhm.
allowing uh that I guess like extra supplement or that support of that supplement helps like again it's kind of like taking pre-workout like you're getting your it helps with kind of mood, energy, and, just priming yourself for the gym. So, I'm
Yeah.
not
There are
yeah, like, I'm
some
not
there are some athletes who've reported increased performance on psychedelics, like focus, from
Mhm,
microdose even to higher doses. I think I saw, like, a Joe Rogan episode where some fighters would microdose and they felt, increased focus. They could be in the moment,
mhm,
they would be hyper even, experience, like, hyper focus, uh,
mhm.
psychedelics. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many,
Yeah,
mm, un not medically, confirmed reasons why, right? So there's, like, neuroplasticity, and then there's anti-inflammation, there's pain relief, there's, like, just, anti-anxiety relief, maybe you're able to focus better because, there's mental health relief from psychedelics. There's so many, like, we don't know why it feels good for
mhm,
you. Um, maybe, like, a couple of, more difficult questions, like placebo effect is also a thing. I
mhm,
don't want not discrediting what you're feeling whatsoever, but, like, I microdose. Are there times where and I think it's working for my own stuff,
mhm.
you know, could that be real? I don't know if
Yeah.
have you thought about that?
Yeah, yeah, I think placebo is a really, interesting topic with what I'm doing because 'cause I'm also sharing, like, the manifestation and belief paired with
Mhm,
this microdosing. And so, or at least it came about while I was sharing that journey of manifestation. So this idea of the placebo, I totally believe in. It's kind of like, again, connecting back to like Joe Dispenza's work and he had that book, You Are the Placebo. And I was, recommended that book a bunch of times, like too early on in this journey. And that is really what I'm sharing. I feel like as far as experimentation goes, I am seeing what it is like and sharing what it's like to pair that belief system with, the experience of having a spinal cord injury. Because even in his book, he shares his own personal story of having a spinal cord injury himself. I think he dealt with spinal compression of some sort, a really extreme injury. And then, coming out of the hospital and being able to walk and obtaining a recovery, right? and to me, I'm like, I'm not just like following like a specific like way of doing things. I'm just, I'm just sharing that has been recommended to me a lot. But yeah, this idea of the placebo, I think too, I have to share that I was also in a clinical trial, and I just found out that I I have made improvements, but I was in the placebo group.
Mhm.
Um, and I really thought I wasn't. Like, they got
Yeah.
me good. And
Yeah.
so I think too that that kind of affirmed the placebo effect within myself.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah.
How do you feel about being placeboed?
I feel great. Like, I
Mm.
think that it's, I after the fact though too, they were like, "Okay, now you're gonna receive it." And
Wink, wink.
so yeah, yeah. Like, it could still be they're like,
Yeah.
"Gotcha,
Yeah.
double placeboed."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was actually relieved when I found out because I think going into it, that you could be receiving the placebo, or you could not be. Yeah, it was the not knowing that created that sense of that unease, you're just sitting there, like, wondering, and I feel like they did something in the trial that made me be like, "Oh, I know I got it now." Like,
Mhm.
I'm not the placebo, in this trial, and it switched something on, and then I was like, "Yes, I'm seeing improvements." Like,
Mm.
it totally worked, and so that's why it's definitely a practice to work on this whole belief aspect of things. It's also something I think we put too much practice in at times, and I am just trying to share, like, that side of things paired with this microdosing journey. See what it does.
Mhm. Yeah. You're right, yeah. I mean, uh, worst case scenario, you can be motivated, and even if it's placebo, I mean, if it's motivating you, if it's, giving you, bringing you to physical therapy with a fresher mindset and a positive mindset, I mean,
Mhm. Right? Like, might as
mhm,
well achieve your dreams in the process, like,
fake it
that's
till
the
you
side
make it.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's, like,
Uh,
really no losing, so
yeah. Um, alright, so yeah, I guess so. Have you run into resistance when it comes to? I mean, has there been a therapist or a doctor or a family member who's told you, "Gosh, what are you doing?
Mhm. Um
Taking drugs, not in your state, in your
No, I
condition."
actually didn't have any of that, I think.
Oh,
I yeah, I only recently, like, everyone kind of found out, I guess, like, through online.
hmm,
Well, and then they were like, "Okay, what are these packages? Like, why" and I was like, "Yeah, they're mushrooms. That's it." And they were just, like, immediately kind of like, "Huh, okay. Like, what do you mean?" And there was a little bit of confusion, but, curiosity, and I think just because they, they could just see it in me that I'm so assured with it that they're not
hmm,
worried, like, you know? So, I think maybe they're worried for themselves, I think there's always that fear that, like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose myself, I'm gonna lose my mind," or,
mm,
you know, as far as, like, the escapism part of reality, or there's just the experiencing psychedelics in their, like, higher dose form, right?
mm,
Um, so I actually think I introduced or, like, exposed, like, some of my family members to the idea of microdosing. When I thought everyone kinda knew about it, but, yeah, but I had to tell them, I'm like, "I'm not tripping every time I take this." Like, I can
yeah,
hardly tell, like, the point is that I can't tell,
yeah,
mentally that it's there, so,
yeah.
yeah.
I've had to explain that hundreds of times over this career of mine. Yeah, I know that conversation very well. Um, so, I mean, you seem to be a positive, hopeful person in general, from what I could see.
Mhm.
Considering your situation,
Mhm.
necessarily the easiest, and so I commend you with that, anyways. But has microdosing added some hope for you?
Yes, for sure. I mean, the microdosing, aside from the hope of the physical side effects, um, the thing that I think we people in the community already know this, but just to reaffirm that microdosing, it doesn't just like make you feel good um daily. I think that's a misconception. Yes, you feel I think overall I feel good most of the time. The thing that it does is it allows some things to come up too for me to work through them. So the therapeutic side of having to navigate this new life, and it's it's allowed me to kind of like process things as they come up instead of, holding them in. Um so I could imagine for some people they might be like, okay, I don't really want to, that to happen, but that truly is one of the side effects I experienced. Um and that's okay. Like it's totally safe. Think that um there's a sense of vulnerability that comes with it, but there's just something about microdosing that it allows you to experience it with clarity and give yourself, the whatever processing or healing you need. Um, and it literally comes in doses, like as it is in the name. So it's not like I'm like, oh my God, I'm dealing with the trauma of my injury. It's like
Hmm.
no, it's like way more subtle than that, and I wouldn't attribute to, like, my microdosing itself for me getting over it. I think I did that on my own, like, entirely throughout the year, um, and then microdosing just allowed me to yeah, I guess, like, do some extra processing that maybe on some things I wasn't quite, like, aware that I hadn't processed, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's just that a little bit of assistance in the
Yeah.
healing journey.
Yeah, you subtle you use the word subtle, and that's the word I often use when I'm describing it to people. Um, and, for me, I've always described microdosing as I'll use some fancy writer English, but it gives me better access to the present moment. So
Mm,
I'm better able to be here rather than, like, stuck in whatever in my head, whatever it is would be lost in, generally my thoughts, my crazy thoughts, and, uh, psychedelics, microdosing allow me to be, like, a little bit more here in the present moment, and, I think for me, that's the core, like, that's the foundational benefits of psychedelics and microdosing, is that I'm more in the present moment, and then there's all those spillover effects. Like, if people say they're more focused with psychedelics, well, they're more focused because they're more in the present moment and they're not lost in their own stuff.
mhm,
And
mhm,
if you're able to better focus during therapy, maybe it's because you're more here, and there's all these other positive effects, and you can better things are coming up because you're allowing them
right,
to. Yeah, so,
mhm,
that's the foundational effect for me, and on all the things, potential
yeah, and
positive
that's
spill.
huge. That's
Yeah.
huge for dealing with anything, but with this navigating this injury, it is really challenging because when you go through such a life altering change, especially early on. I hear this with people in the spinal cord injury community. They say the first few years, people that are out longer, that they have been in it for years. They say the first few years they were still in hyper recovery mode because they were still that version, living as that version that they were before. And so presence is huge. So this too, like, I'm fully aware of that too, that I could be experiencing that. I am a year and a half in, and I am in recovery mode, and I've just embraced that, like, that I that I still just wanna test it out just to see. And so, basically, yeah, this what microdosing does is help with that presence, because if you're thinking of the past, you're thinking of what you lost, you think you lost your mobility, you're just thinking as that person that used to do these things, and have all this independence that you had before. And then if you're thinking of the future, right, you're thinking of, "Okay, when am I gonna make more progress? When am I going to get the thing that I want?" So, you have to just eliminate as best as you can, eliminate both of those worlds. None of those worlds exist.
Yeah,
Nothing
the present
exists
moment.
but this moment. It's so
It's
hard.
important for everyone, and especially important for when you're going through something big.
Mhm.
If you
Mhm.
are, yeah, you that was what you s that was very well said. Dwelling on the past and dwelling on something that happened and then worrying about the future, that's not a good place to be in
Mm-mm.
general, especially
Neither
when you're
are
going
good.
yeah, especially when you're going through something big. So, yeah, to the present moment. Cheers to the present moment,
Cheers.
right?
And I think, like, the work of it's like The Power of Now by
Mhm.
Eckhart Tolle? I don't know how to
Yeah,
say
I'm always
his last name.
never quite sure how to pronounce
Eckhart
it, yeah.
Tolle? I don't know. Anyways, great book, I always recommend. Huge for anybody, but also, yeah, if you are going through a massive injury, massive life change, um, and if you're curious about, like, how I am manifesting, something that is probably deemed as, like, "You're crazy, how could you manifest something like this?" Um, just being present, like, that's it, like, you manifest through the present moment. Um, and so if anyone else aligns with that, I don't know if you share, like, a similar interest in those practices, but yes, microdosing does allow you to become present, but it doesn't I'm not also gonna advocate, like, "Oh, you need to microdose to be present," because
Yeah, there's
you
other ways. There's other
Right,
ways to get
right,
there. Yeah,
for
I always
sure.
say psychedelics are like a tool. When I added microdosing to my life when I was going through a tough time, it's it's not a cure-all. Um,
Mhm,
when I added microdosing during this rough patch in my life, I increased my yoga, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go to yoga 4 times a week." When I added microdosing to my life, and I started to meditate a bit more and read about these topics that we're talking about, and learn about mindfulness, and I'm able
mhm,
I'm able to better experience the effects of microdosing because I understand the concept of mindfulness and how to notice my own mind. And if I'm noticing my own mind, I could notice the effects of microdosing because it's subtle, like we said. And if
mhm.
I remember I helped someone in my life and my family. I won't mention who, but let's just say subtlety is not his strong suit. And I and I gave him a microdose, and after a few minutes, he's like, "I don't fucking feel anything," and I was like, "Well, let's just say his mindfulness practice wasn't quite there." And I was like, come on, yeah, let's take a moment, let's look at it. So like one doesn't really work without the other. Like if you just like take a microdose and just like cross your arms and be like, I don't feel anything. It's not, you may get some physical effects, but if it's a low enough dose, you have to have like other tools in your toolkit to
Mhm,
to be able to notice it, the subtlety, and to, lean that, oh, here it is. There's something there. Let me
mhm.
notice it and feel into it. And
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
you
It's
know,
huge. It is just, like, experiencing just showing, like, how different everyone experiences the world, because I think if you have that sense, though, of, connectivity and, uh, spirituality too, I think pairing it with, like, a spiritual practice is something like, if you already, like, are a spiritual person, you just see the world differently. So you're able to detect um kind of a different realm, detect like how like, okay, even connective conversations, for example, those are my favorite thing is like, this person brought this thing up that led to this thing that led to that. So that's
Mm.
why I love this practice with spirituality because it um again it just enhances that connectivity with other people, and you only get that through the present moment, you know? You only get that when you're paying attention to things that approach you or come your way. So yeah, just people are built differently. I think it's also really fun when you have
Mhm.
like different people trying these things out, and
Yeah.
it's not like it's wrong or anything. It's just it's like I feel like there's just some people that are built to not like be hyper processing like the world in this realm. But it's like there's like an art of that. Like I always look at those people and I'm like, that's I kind of envy that a little bit. Like that's
The
um
ones who are outer, in a different dimension, or they're really anchored in this one? Which one?
they're like I guess in a different one. They're one that they're not hyper processing the connective thoughts or how things are connected. They're just there. They feel more present sometimes.
Mhm.
Um yeah, and I love being around that as well. But yeah, yeah, I'm rambling now on I could
Oh.
get into so many different like philosophical debates about this,
Mhm.
but
Well, w we'll save that for another podcast.
I need to ground myself.
Right, okay. Uh, yeah, so, I get we could start, like, wrapping things up, but I guess as you go forward, I mean, have you seen an increase in people reaching out to you? I mean, I can imagine if someone has been in a situation like yours or similar, and, hope is a word I used before, and, maybe you had hope when you started taking it, and someone sees your story, and if they're in a tough place, yeah, have you been getting stories like that? Do you feel the
Mhm.
hope even in the messages they send you? Can you sense that people are looking for?
Yeah, yeah, I get a ton of messages. I get messages about people seeking help, seeking a safe place, but also I get messages of people saying like, "Finally, someone's talking about this. I've experienced this." And a lot of that is so affirming. I'm like, "Okay, now that it's kind of opened up this pathway, I feel like I'm just getting a lot of encouragement through those stories that people are
Mhm,
sharing of it working for them." And they'll say it's worked for them in a vast variety of ways. It's not just people with spinal cord injuries, people with many different ailments. Um, and so, yeah, and for that, I'm really grateful that I like sort of built the community to so I would like if anybody here is listening and wants like that space, a similar space where people are experimenting, people are sharing and also supporting each other. I do have a Discord for that, so you can just reach out to me and ask for the Discord link. Um, and so yeah, I think that that has been huge is all of the support I've gotten. I want to do like a big thank you to everybody that, I'm still just like catching up and I'm still so new in this journey that and just in content creation in general. So, so yes, this that hope is there. There's also people seeking hope, and I am, I guess, hoping to inspire people to trust themselves and trust in the power that they can hold in embarking on their own journey.
mhm,
Uh, I don't know whether healing or whether that is there's always, like, something to discover, and that's what I wanna put out there is that every spinal cord injury is different, too. So I knew that me putting my story out there wasn't going to, like, speak for everybody with a spinal cord injury. It's again, it's like, if you don't see yourself represented in a clinical setting, um, I wanted to create that for myself. I am now representing myself as that experiment, and, a lot of people, like, from all different backgrounds may not be represented in clinical settings. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to, advocate for that, and also being safe, yada, 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 right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a medical professional, but again, there's still a lot to learn in this
Mhm.
realm of healing and health, and
Yeah.
yeah, we're
I mean, I
figuring
could
out a lot.
yeah, and I mean, it's just similar to with mental health. I haven't had to go, like, navigate the medical system physically that much, but, having worked in the kind of mental health world now for several years, and the stories that we keep hearing is that, the people would try the regular things that their doctor or therapist told them to, and it just wasn't working. And the reason psychedelics are getting so mainstream when it comes to mental health is that now we're starting to show that, okay, we have clinical results that it is giving people an option when they thought there was none. It is giving people hope, and they've tried
Mhm.
everything now. So, I mean, maybe we're not quite there with psychedelics in the physical, although now that psychedelics and is getting mainstream medical acceptance, and the FDA is very close
Mhm.
to approving it for mental health, and it's in the White House now. Like, the future of psychedelics, once mental health gets properly mainstream, like, people are already talking about psychedelics for the more physical stuff, for inflammation and for other wellness things. So, uh,
Mhm.
maybe sometime in the future, people, with physical conditions will have more tools when it comes to psychedelics, maybe coming in the future.
Mhm.
So you're a
Yeah, I'm
pioneer.
really hopeful.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Right.
thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so thanks for, I guess, having me and being able to share, like, at least, like, a real human story that, I don't have any expertise in anything, but I will share and be the first to tell you when I don't know something. So yeah, I just hope people, like, feel less fearful about this, what they don't know. And because, the more I share it, I think it's allowed more people to be more courageous with understanding this. And again, this is something to be careful with, as I described earlier, like, what can happen.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it has a lot of potential. I'm really hopeful, and we've only, like, scratched the surface. So
Mhm.
I know that clinical settings are picking this up. So, like, in places like Oregon and Colorado, they have, studies going on for people with spinal cord injuries, even,
Yeah.
um,
Nice.
experimenting with psychedelics. So I think that, you know, definitely advocate for clinical research, especially because it can give you access to something that you don't have access to
Mhm.
yet. You can also contribute, um, to and represent yourself, somebody who may share a background to you. So yes, I am a big, like, clinical research uh junkie, I guess. Like, I'm bouncing around to different clinical studies.
Okay.
Once I'm done with this one, I'm starting another one this summer. So
Uh-huh.
yes,
Okay.
big. I
A
haven't
mix.
started a psychedelic one yet, but
Ah,
that is hopefully in the future.
okay, a mix of the spiritual and the clinical and the
Yeah.
hopeful.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
sure.
Well, I really appreciate it, and we'll link to all of your links, and we'll add as much information as possible so people have the full context and maybe some research that's relevant and helpful for people. Uh, so yeah, thank you for sharing your story and
Of course, thanks for
yeah,
having me.
yeah, and
Yes.
I wish you luck. Uh, yeah, all the best, and
Yeah,
let's and keep it up. All right,
yeah, thank you.
I'll keep following you.
Awesome, yep, I'm gonna keep putting it out there, so you know where to
Yeah,
find me.
all right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.